Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Karachi and in this video I will cover information gathering concepts and techniques. The reconnaissance topic is huge, requiring you to understand the theory and the practical part, by the way. And of course, we cannot cover every tools out there, but I'm gonna discuss a few tools. But however, there's absolutely no way we could cover every details related to this topic. So, and especially the practical part, it does require a separate videos for each tool out there so you could fully understand. Now, okay. So the content here, we would learn about passive reconnaissance techniques, active reconnaissance techniques, analyze the result of reconnaissance, use active and passive reconnaissance tools. Now, in this lecture, I'll focus more on the benefits for you as a pen tester. I'll be providing some examples. Now, first thing, we need to understand some key terms. What is passive reconnaissance? Now, passive reconnaissance involves, gather information about the target without directly interacting with it. Now, this minimizes the chance of being detected, by IDS or by, any another system in the target organization. Now, one of the key features about passive reconnaissance is non-intrusive, because there's no active engagement or active reconnaissance, which is going to be the second topic of our lecture. You know, uh, since it's passive reconnaissance, it relies on public and open sources. And this is basically the first step when it comes to reconnaissance process, for penetration testing. The other very important concept, which is open source intelligence, which is refers to the collections and analyzing data from publicly available sources for intelligence purposes. Very important thing. Now, one of the key features, the informations is freely available and accessible. So, of course, some websites. It combines multiple sources to provide actionable insight, and this is considered a very important part. Now let's look at, gathering high-level organization information. Okay, so the first thing here, okay, we'll focus on the graphical location organization structure. How does this plays a major role here? Now, when it comes to pen testing, understanding the geographical location, organization structure is very important. Now, knowing where's the target's physical location are can make all the difference in assessing physical security. For example, now this knowledge allows you to evaluate how secure entry points, to the building, what type of surveillance system out there, and even test how well staff handle tailgating attempts, by monitoring the building. You can also get the added advantage of pinpointing where, the critical IT assets like servers, data centers are housed. This is particularly useful for identifying vulnerabilities in remote or poorly secured sites. Plus, having the sense of local events or, sometimes it, depends on location of the company or cultural factors, helps you create more believable phishing or social engineering attacks. Now, to gather this information, you will look at the corporate website. Obviously, you need to start looking at the social media. That's something, or even public records here. Like business license. Social media, for example, can often give away more than intent with the geotagged photos or casual mentions of office location. So let me just speak a little bit about organization structure here. Now, This is where you can really evaluate your approach by digging into how this particular company is structured. You can identify key players, like executives or IT administrators, and you could design the attack against those, especially those executives. Whether it's a phishing email designed to, impersonate a CEO, or a pre-texting scenario targeting an employee in the finance, knowing this hierarchy boosts the credibility of your approach. Now, it also helps you map out potential vulnerabilities, like, finding poorly trained departments or third party relationships. Okay, another thing, by the way, the LinkedIn profiles, and public records are gold mines for this kind of information. So a quick scan of the Teams page or a press release can reveal everything from who leads critical department to which contractors the company works with. So think about it here. Now, by putting all these together, the geographical location, organization structure here, you can level up your penetration testing strategy. This will help you to plan more precise attacks, and succeed, of course, in your attacks. Now, another interesting and very important website that you should become familiar with is the OSINT framework website. It's built on a tree structure, as you could see it over here, with nodes that link to public records. Like if you click here, that will take you to like the ExifTool will take you to a public record. If OCA will do the same. Now, the fact is, when gathering high level organization information, leveraging structured tools and resources can significantly streamline the process. Now, this tool in particular is very useful, more than you can ever imagine. Okay, and because these nodes, the one you look at the screen over here, for example, allow pen testers and investigators to navigate a wide range of categories, from domain lookups, and employee profiling to physical security insights and more, all from a centralized platform. It organizes structure, makes it so easy for you to identify and access, let's say specific resources relevant to the target company. You know, you can see as a pen tester or someone getting into cybersecurity, I strongly recommend that you become familiar with this. Now, speaking about this, beyond the OSINT firmware, there are numerous other tools and platforms that can be very helpful for data gathering. This includes like database, for public records, government fillings, company registries that can provide you, information about about the organization structure, leadership, and legal status. By the way, social media platform, as I mentioned before, like LinkedIn, X, offer a wealth of information on personal and internal operation. Okay, and there are other tools I'm gonna talk about later on for you, so you could understand other things how important. Now, one of the passive reconnaissance, is that to focus on the target's physical location. Now, having detailed knowledge of the organization premises opens up several effective tactics for information gathering without direct interaction or intrusion. Now, this approach is very, very important here, you know, which means that it requires that you visit location for in-person information gathering and start observing how people get in and out. So by simply, in fact, observing, you can note the presence of security measures, such as the key cards, secure doors, the security desks, where are the surveillance cameras located, and so on. Now, these observation here, okay, provide valuable insights into organization physical security posture and highlight the potential vulnerabilities that could be tested later during the pin testing here. Now, there is dumpster diving. It's unconventional, but it can be effective if you're lucky. Let's put it this way. You know, you start looking at discarded materials. That you're hoping you find some sensitive information in it. Okay. I mean, this information could be result of improperly shredded documents, discarded hardware, like hard drives, for example. Anything that you could pick up something out of it here, that can help you to do a better planning for social engineering attacks as well. Now, another important things here that document metadata. Now, metadata is data about data. Okay, so documents metadata plays a critical role in reconnaissance and penetration testing by revealing valuable information that extend beyond the primary content of a file. In fact, metadata provides insight of about the file. For example, I mean, if you look here, like file creation date, who's the author, if service related users and other type of information, like you could find some email addresses. So okay, so how this can be important for you? Okay, well, I'm gonna go over this briefly. So for file creation and modification, date might help you identify when sensitive documents were created or edited. It also could tells you who is the author or usernames of individuals who interacted with the file, which can be leveraged for social engineering or to map organization structure. Well, another one here, we have like another metadata include the server information here, potentially exposing internal server or networks associated with the file's creation or storage. It may contain like email addresses, for example, which is help attacker identify potential phishing targets, or in fact understand the email address structure within the organization. I mean, also it could be helpful to figure out the type of operating system they're using. You know. So another important aspect of metadata is geolocation data, like the GPS information. I mean, many times pictures and documents. It could uh, give you some idea about the location. And by the way, there's quite a bit of tools out there that help you read, like ExifTool, FOCA, or many tools. Like this tool, for example, here, the Exif tool. It shows you, if you look at the screen, the file name. It shows you the file size, extension. Like if it uses camera, I see that here, the make of the camera, the model of the camera, the type of resolution, and in some cases, it can gives you the location, the GPS coordinates of where the photo was taken, making it particularly useful for reconnaissance and investigation. So, I mean, this information, by the way, the EXIF data revealed, it's very helpful, not only for pen tester, also for digital forensics expert. Like for example, a photo taken at the workplace might include geolocation details about the physical location of the office. Similarly, the file time stamps can indicate when and potentially where the photo was created, offering insight into organization schedule or activities. Now, one thing and I need to make sure that you understand. Uh, Despite the fact this EXIF metadata is there, it's often stripped when images are uploaded to certain platform like image sharing sites or social media as part of privacy protection measures. Additionally, users organization may employ special tools to remove metadata from images or configure cameras or and editing software. And by the way, eh, I strongly recommend you play around with this tool. This tool will help you also to make some modification to these, so you could give false information to somebody that, well, that's not real. I mean, like for example, you could change the camera model name, and if there is a user here information, you can simply change that. Okay, so something to keep in mind. Okay, so next step here, we're going to talk about gathering high-level organization information. And this is going to be like, again, public information. Now, the possibility for open source intelligence gathering are only limited by the pen tester's imagination. The first one here is what you call it, the Wayback machine, archive.org. Now, which stores snapshots of websites from previous years. Now, by reviewing archived versions of a target organization website, pen testers can uncover past content, like including information about outdated systems, legacy services, employee directories, or other details that may no longer be publicly available, but could still be relevant to the security assessment here. Now, there's another website called FOCA, fingerprinting organization with collected archives, identifies server metadata. Now, so this one specializes in extracting metadata from publicly accessible documents. It can identify server information, file paths, software versions, and even usernames embedded within documents like PDF, Word files, spreadsheets. Now, this information helps pen tester map the organization's IT infrastructure, identify potential vulnerability tied to outdated or misconfigured them. So when you combine those two together and other OS intelligence tools, the one I just mentioned previously here, okay, imagine the benefit you will get out of it for your reconnaissance effort. Now, these for sure will help you to build a comprehensive profile of the target, making it easier to identify weak points and tailor attack scenario effectively here. Now, another thing here, we have the technical administrative context. People are targets too. Okay, so technical contacts may provide information on system processes. Administrative contacts can give target details and other contact access. Social media like LinkedIn, X, or YouTube. Employees' personal posts on Facebook, Instagram, and other concepts. I'm going to cover it now. So we need to do reconnaissance. Understanding and identifying technical and administrative contacts is very crucial. The problem is people are often, which we know these people are the weakest link in security. And unfortunately, people sometimes they post some information on the social media that they're not supposed to do so. So it could be done intentionally, it could be accidentally, which at the end it provides valuable insights into organization system, processes, or structure. So, making them prime targets for further OS intelligence collection or social media engineering. Now, the technical contacts here are particularly useful in gathering information about organization infrastructure because they could reveal details about IT systems, software configuration, or troubleshooting procedure through job descriptions, by the way. Support communication or public discussion between technical people talking about issues that they encounter within an organization. So from this point, you could pick up, okay, some information about the type of service they have over there. So and also like administrative contacts over here. That's another thing. They can provide access to more general organization information. Their roles, in fact, involve managing access to resources, coordinating schedules, or handling internal communication, making them ideal targets for phishing or pretexting attacks. The social media serves as a treasure for you when it comes to gathering intelligence information, both on the technical contacts and the administrative contacts as well. The reason behind this, because people sometimes they post updates, or such as organizational updates, announcing new projects, or showcase team achievement. Personal posts by employees on the platform like Facebook, Instagram can accidentally disclose sensitive information. So, which here, when we talk about the social media scrapping, this involves basically systematically analyzing post profiles and activity to gather intelligence. Okay, so what tools out there? Well, there are very good or very important tools like Maltego, the one I just mentioned, OS Intelligence Framework, or custom scripts can be used to extract data and identify patterns. For example, LinkedIn profile, okay, might reveal an employee's job responsibilities and the tools they use. Okay, like especially when they try to advertise that, I'm expert in this and this and this and this in this company. So you are basically revealing information about the internal system within the organization here. Now, domains and networks. Domain registrar is a accredited organization that sells domain names here. And the details about the domain owner can be found in these registrars, and who is the assigned authority and other important information. Now, you need to understand the domains and the network, because this is a very important part of reconnaissance, in penetration testing here, as they provide critical insights into an organization online presence and infrastructure. Now, the domain registrar plays a central role here. These records, the one you see it here on the screen, often accessible via tools like who's, okay, lookups, which can reveal details about the domain owner, including, like contact information, organization names, and in many, many, many cases, by the way, the physical addresses. So each information about the domain are very important. Examining those domain information and their IP data here, you know, basically is very important, because when you start analyzing these data, you can determine whether the servers and IP addresses associated with the domain are hosted locally within the organization's own network infrastructure or in the cloud. So, local servers might indicate on premises hardware and data centers, which can present like physical security challenges or legacy system vulnerabilities. Now, there are many, many, many tools out there that can help you achieve this goal. One of the tools is NSLookup, Dig, Traceroute, Shodan. They are used to gather domain and network information. Of course, when you combine these tools with whose database and IP geolocation tools, now these resources enable you to map the organization online footprint. You could identify potential entry points and tailor and design your attack strategy, or according to this information provided here. Now, okay, so another information here, when we talk about domain name DNS, which is you should be familiar with that. It translates computer hosts and domain names to IP addresses. And here we have the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, IANA, okay, and the host services, which is the one I mentioned here. Now, so the IANA is basically serve as central authority for managing the DNS and allocating IP address space globally. It oversees the root DNS zones and delegates responsibilities to regional and national registries. Okay. Now, the who's, which is I already mentioned slightly, the who's lookup is very important because it gives you who is the registrant, name, organization, any contact information for technical administrative roles, when the domain was created, when is the expiration date, and what DNS servers are used. Okay, so these can be very, very important information, like any alias names and so on. So imagine by combining the DNS analysis with who's lookup, you can uncover relationship between domains, subdomains, and IP addresses and hosting provider. So again, those tools like NSLookup, Dig, and other specialized host services enable you to probe DNS configuration and identify misconfiguration. Like, for example, like expose records on unprotected zones that can be exploited and subsequent phases of engagement here. Which, it takes us to this part here where we say like there's a misconfiguration at DNS, you know, like DNS zone transfer here. Okay, imagine if the zone transfer is not secure, it's not done properly on the DNS server. Okay, uh, so it will retain all known information about particular zone, the domain or subdomain of the target. I mean, you'll be able to know, for example, like when the SOA, start of authority, any text information that give you that can reveal certain information about the domain, MX records for the email exchange, name servers. So this information should not be revealed to the public and it should be protected, but it could happen if it's not configured correctly. Now, another important things that as a pen tester need to be familiar with is when it comes to the routers and routing information. Now, knowing the IP addresses of network infrastructure can be valuable, like routers, firewalls, okay, because it will give you basically a clearer picture of the target's IT environment to identify potential vulnerabilities. So when you start analyzing the information here, looking at the screen, you can, uh, it can help you determine or make educated guesses about the several critical factors, like the ISP here, okay, and the network provider here, okay. Now, the IP address of the network infrastructure often reveals the ISP or the network provider used by the target. Now, this information can help you understand the network's the geographic location and also type of service or any associated limitation or characteristics. Now, when it comes to the routers names and IP addresses, identifying the router names and IP addresses can provide, the penetration testers with specific targets for further investigation. Like, for example, if there's a banner information, if you try to probe the routers, may reveal the manufacturer, model, or even firmware, version. Now, there's another thing here, whether the infrastructure is on premises or hosted or on elsewhere. And see, routing information, by the way, when you test the routing information, can help you determine whether the target's infrastructure is managed on premises of the building, like in the building of the organization, or hosted by third party. Now, because each one of these, it needs require a different approach for penetration testing here. So this can be helpful for you. And of course, tools like traceroute, Nmap, and other tools will help you determine, if they are located on premises or hosted somewhere. Now, another tool, which is the tool I just mentioned, the traceroute tool uses ICMP to determine IP routers or hops between the source and the target here. That's a very important tool. It's basically network diagnostic utility. When we talk the hops, that's the hops that's between a source and a target destination. It shows you here like a step-by-step view of the path that packets take through the network, starting from your point all the way to the end here. So how does it help? Or what does it reveal? Let's put it this way. Well, obviously, we look at the screen over here. Routers IP addresses, I mean, you can see that it identifies, like in some cases, the IP addresses of the routers. It shows you the network path it took to reach the target. Okay. It tells you how many hop count, from 1 to 9 here. So how does this benefit you as a pen tester? Well, one thing for network mapping, this command traceroute or trace RT, that depends on the version operating system, helps pen tester visualize the target's network infrastructure. It can identify IP ranges, understanding routing behavior. Also, each hub here basically can reveal routers, gateway, or even firewalls. Like, here, this could be a firewall right here along the path, providing targets for further analysis. So this, and also the round trip times can expose latency or misconfiguration at specific routers, helping testers, try to figure out, if there's an issue happening at this particular path here. Okay, so let's talk about war driving. Now, what is it? This is the act of discovering wireless networks by walking or driving around with a Wi-Fi enabled device and specialized software. Is known as a war driving, like this guy on the picture over here. Of course, his laptop is connected to antennas as well to get better information. Now, when accessing or trying to discover devices or system, okay, it's very important for you to distinguish between on-premises and cloud-hosted wireless networks. Many public and guest Wi-Fi networks, especially the one in modern enterprise, are managed through cloud-based controllers, as you see it on the screen here. Okay. Penetration testing cloud host wireless networks require additional authorization because they may fall under the jurisdiction of a third-party providers, like Amazon or Cisco or whatever. So testing these networks without proper authorization could result in a legal and ethical violation here. So how to identify the ownership of Discover Wireless Network and System, pen tester can use different tools like the one you see it on the screen over here, like Who's Lookup. I already spoke about this. Traceroute. And here we have the SSL TLS certification for wireless networks using a secure protocol like WPA2 or 3 enterprise with the radius servers. You need to analyze the SSL or the TLS certificate can reveal ownership or hosting details, like organization name and domain associated with that thing. And of course, there are some other specialized where driving tools like Casmat or ACRAC-NG, and many, many, many that you need to become familiar with. Now, speaking about SSL TLS certificates, identifies and verified integrity website and other system services, the mechanism for browser to show the site as secure. Now, If you're not familiar with how the certificate structure, please, read about it, because it gives you a very good idea about useful information, like, like SSL's, the TLS digital certificate, DNS server names, organization information, the keys, public keys, of course. And so, as a pen tester, you need to analyze those certificates here by the organization to gather intelligence, identify potential misconfiguration or vulnerability. Like, for example, like, okay, so as a pen tester, when I look at a certificate like this, what do I look for? Well, first of all, I look for expire or self-signed certificate. Now, this, if that's the case, this indicates poor security practices, making the site more susceptible to man-in-the-middle attacks. Now, again, this certificate will reveal to you the type of encryption algorithm. Now, outdated protocols like TLS 1.0 or weak ciphers, like RC4, are often exploitable easily, you know. And also, of course, you got the subdomain enumeration tools, like SSL scan can extract alternate names from certificates, revealing hidden subdomains and potential targets here. Now, we have another thing, it's called password dumps here. This is online database, which is basically a collection of credentials, typically username and password, extracted from data breaches and linked online. There are so many of them. Like, for example, like repositories, like have I been pound, HIBP, or repositories like GitHub leaks can sometimes help pen tester verify whether employees' credentials have been exposed. Uh, Keep in mind that sometimes you could find like large password lists, which often containing millions of records, are particularly useful for automating brute force login attempts. On the services like SSH, web application, Active Directory environment. Okay, so it's not easy when we do brute force because it does take a long time, that. So now, by leveraging these password dumps responsibly, the pen tester can simulate real-world attacks. You could identify like weak password policy in the organization, and you could help the organization improve their security status by enforcing stronger authentication mechanism, like multi-factor authentication, or you could recommend password complexity rules on the website. Now, here also we have another important concept, which is when we talk about public-facing cloud storage. Now, cloud storage is widely used by organizations to store and manage data, but misconfiguration can unintentionally expose sensitive information. So, as a pen tester, you need to identify unsecured public-facing storage. That's a very important step during reconnaissance. When you expose, actually exposed data, okay, may include sensitive files, credentials, API keys, internal documents, or even entire backups, all of which can be leveraged in further attacks. So let's look at some of the examples here. So when you see the Amazon Web Services, okay, S3 and other cloud storage management tool help targets identify public storage instance. The AWS S3 uh, bucket enumeration, for example, like tools like S3 Scanner, Buck Hacker, or AWS CLI can identify public buckets and analyze their content. There's also another option. You could use like search engines for cloud storage, like a gray hat warfare, and search engines like Google, using, of course, advanced search operators, can locate public storage instance. And there's also other tools like a Clouds, Ploit, or Scout Suite help scan cloud environments to identify publicly accessible storage and insecure configuration. So, and I think it's a good idea for you to become familiar with these tools. Now let's talk about another strategic search engine analysis, like Google Hacking Database. Now, what's that? Well, it's a collection of advanced search queries. They call it Google Dorks, used to uncover sensitive information indexed by search engines here. Now, these queries leverage Google's powerful search capability to identify misconfiguration, expose files, unsecure system that may not have been intended for public release. Of course, we got the Shodan. Shodan is a search engine that scans and indexes internet connected devices and system. By the way, this is unlike traditional search engine like the one from Google, which index web content. Shodan basically focus on identifying the banners and metadata of devices, such as servers, routers, industrial control system, cameras, IoT devices, and so on. Stuff like this can be considered important. Now, okay, so that's a website for Shodan.io. Simply by typing something here, it can help you expose certain vulnerabilities. One of the key capabilities of Shodan is that it can help you identify exposed devices, like uncover unsecured devices like webcams, security cameras, IoT devices, even also industrial control system, the SCADA/ICS. And also another thing could be like, like if you look here, for example, like the operating system server information as well. Servers with open ports and services also, it can reveal certain information. It can also index services running on a standard and non-standard ports. It can give you the geographical organization mapping as well, which is like, physical location. Now, okay, I already mentioned about the Google hacking database. And, here just to give you just a quick idea of how powerful is Google hacking the dork here. Like, let's say that if you specify file type PDF, so you're searching for PDF files in a site like of your target, for example. Here you could see that file type log password. Here start you look for log files containing the keyword password. And here, for example, you want to look for password in text, and if anything like password found in a log file. So so this is a very, very, very powerful tool for passive reconnaissance. The idea here is that you could identify publicly accessible files and directories that expose sensitive data. You could discover misconfiguration servers, databases, and system can be exploited. And of course, organization digital footprint by analyzing exposed infrastructure. Now, here is another website that I think it's a good idea for you to become familiar with. The Censys, that's a search engine. That's also another invaluable tool for internet-wide reconnaissance and vulnerability identification. Why? Because it provides you with detailed insight into geographical details, exposed services, SSL, TLS certificate, makes it highly effective for penetration tester during reconnaissance phase here. There's the free one, there's a paid one. So I would strongly recommend to visit this website and become familiar with it. Okay, so there is also another interesting tools. I want to talk about the Recon-NG. That's a web reconnaissance framework designed for gathering, analyzing intelligence, similar to Metasploit framework. But this is, designed mainly for information gathering. It allows pen testers to automate reconnaissance tasks and integrate different types of open intelligence tools and APIs. The harvester, by the way, this is awesome too. Used for gathering publicly available information by the target, like subdomains, email addresses. Like you could look up email addresses for employees in the company, banners, open ports, and one of the best tools is called Maltego. Maltego, very powerful graph-based OS intelligence tool that automates data gathering and visualize relation between, those entities, like domains, IP addresses, people, like if you want to search for people in Maltego, emails, and organization. So one of the key features, like I mentioned here, it provides you with a graphical interface to visualize the relationship between collected data. It can uses transforms to pull information from multiple resources, like like DNS, social media, search engine. It can integrate with different type of tools. So it's very powerful tool. The free version of Maltego is not very comprehensive like the paid one, and the paid one is very expensive. But at least become familiar with it, please. Now, another tool here, the website archiving and caching databases, the Wayback machine, you know, that's also, now the question is here, how the Wayback machine can be useful. Okay, how this can be useful for you. Well, uh, it benefits reconnaissance because they can access to historical content. Like archive snapshots may contain sensitive information, like all directories, file names, subdomains, all system technology services, employees, directories, emails, internal. It can help you determine any version comparisons over here. So, like when you look at the old website and the current one, across multiple snapshots, you could identify when certain pages or services or system were introduced or removed. So any changes will help you, determine the difference here. Also, it can be helpful, by the way, recovery of deleted documents, files that got deleted in the current website, but it's there in archived pages of, so, you want to figure out why this is happening here. Also, it can gives you an idea about historical pages can reveal, like, for example, outdated technologies or software used by the target organization a long time ago. And now, you know, what there is anyway limitation of website archiving. There are, like, some website may have few or no archive pages, especially if they block archiving bots like robots.txt. Another thing, if there's a website that is dynamic or interactive content, like using JavaScript heavily application, might not be archived properly. And of course, not all pages are stored constantly, and gaps may exist in a snapshot history. So that could be an issue here for you. Now, for another thing here, we have the public source code repositories. You know, these can provide valuable insights during reconnaissance, like platform like GitHub, for example, and GitLab, Bitbucket often contain publicly shared source code that organization or developers have uploaded. So analyzing such repositories can reveal critical information, like this information you see it on the screen. It could be credential, password, configuration details, IP addresses, contact, domains, and so on. So these can be very useful information. Now here we have another one, the strategic search engine analysis. We talk about common vulnerabilities and exposure, CVE. Okay, MITRE.org, which we spoke about it in the previous video. Okay, so it hosts database of CVE. Now we know the CVE standardized system for identifying and cataloging publicly disclosed software and software vulnerabilities. Okay, now when you look at the numbers over here, for example, you say CVE-2022, that means that's the year. Okay, and also when you could simply search a database for server names or for application names, and it's supposed to give you a description of the vulnerability, what's the impact and the severity, and could be links to patches and related sources. So this is very, very important website for you to become familiar with. Now, another site is called the Common Weakness Enumeration CWE. It's a database of hardware and software weaknesses. It has a general list of potential flaws rather than specific instances like CVE, useful to help developers prevent flaws being built into the hardware and the software. Simply, you got an option to search for anything. You could search for, by typing in Apache server or whatever you want. You could view the CWE by software development, hardware design, and everything. So that's another important site for you that you need to become familiar with. Now, there is another organization like Computer Emergency Response Team, the CERT. These are specialized teams that provide critical cybersecurity resources. Yeah, I mean, you can find the CERT team like in some government or some organization, by the way. Like in, and they provide information about vulnerabilities, attacks, mitigation technique. And of course, the Nest, that should be one of your favorite things. Provide you with a lot of published resources that I think it's very useful, very important for you to read. One of them is the Technical Guide to Information Security Testing and Assessment, and there are other full disclosure list here that and services sharing vulnerabilities and exploits. Okay, so we have completed the passive reconnaissance techniques, and right now we're gonna look into active reconnaissance technique. And let's just start by, key terms. What is active reconnaissance? So active reconnaissance, that's the time where we start using tools and techniques that directly engage targets, not indirectly, no, directly engaging target. There are so many tools in Kali, Linux, and elsewhere that you could scan or probe networks for host and listening services. And then we have enumeration, which is the act of counting things and making lists and discovering more information about the open ports. Now, pen testers enumerate many things in active reconnaissance, like host, port, services, data files, vulnerabilities, and network. And so we're going to look into some of them. So the first part here, enumeration for hosts. Now, of course, you are expected to have authorization to perform active reconnaissance, before you start doing it. And Nmap is by far the most common scanning tool. And, a lot of people, they look at it as the pen tester's best friend, you know. So now, I'm not gonna go deep into Nmap, but I have on my YouTube channel, I broke down Nmap videos. Like you got one for how to discover services OS, how to do Nmap scripting, Nmap scan techniques, host discovery, and port scanning. And that's one of the topics here. Like if you want to do host discovery, this video will show you hands-on steps how to do this. Okay. Now, we know that there is a black box, white box, and gray box. And now and here we'll focus on a white box, in the white box, you get provided with a list of host IP addresses to the pen tester. Obviously, this can eliminate the need for you to do host discovery because the client will give you all the IPs and name of the host for you to scan. And of course, we will use Nmap, and also we use Nesses and many other techniques. Now, keep in mind, like I said, is that penetration tests are often provided with the detailed information, like list of host IP addresses, which basically streamline the reconnaissance process. So it kind of save you a lot of time when you do the scanning. However, if host IP addresses are not explicitly provided, tools like Nmap, Nesses, or other network scanning tool can perform host discovery for you. And this is why, I have this video will teach you how to do the Nmap host discovery. Okay, now there are so many tools out there, okay, that can help us collect information about different hosts. Many information can comes from logs and config files. Like, for example, DHCP logs that contain records of IP assignment to the devices on the network of the client. That's one. Second thing, we have router firewall logs. These logs can show the devices communicating through the network, revealing IP addresses. And here we have the system configs files. They may list IP addresses, subnets, or gateway information. Now, when it comes to network management tools, they do contain so many detailed host files. Okay, because uh, because these type of management tools, they often maintain detailed host data, including IP addresses, device names, and other information. And a good example of network management tools is SolarWinds. Uh, Beside this, it's good to mention that there's something we call it asset inventories. Now, organization may maintain asset or IP management inventories. There's so many tools out there also. It can list all the system you have and their IP and their model number, manufacturer information, and so on. So as a pen tester, you could leverage this information in your white box testing, and that will help you to speed up the process. Now, also, we have during the enumeration, we have try to do like a ping sweep. Okay, so in pin testing, targets can, by the way, can include not only computers like you see it on the screen here, can include people, processes, and many, many other things here. Now, ping sweep is often one of the first activities for host discovery because the way it works, this tool can scan like a network. You could tell scan from this network starting from .0 up to 255, and you click start and they start showing you the list of live IPs and their host names if possible, and which ports are open, and some other relevant information. Now, see, so basically here, the replies means the host is up. Okay. Host discovery often they use ICMP, it works by sending ICMP echo requests and the active host respond with echo replies. Tools like Nmap or fping, by the way, can basically can reveal some information about this if you choose to use it. Okay. Now, the TCP over here sends also, like if you want to do ping sweep using TCP, TCP can send packets, send, which is the flag in TCP header, by the way, to a specific port if you want, or to range of ports if you want. And if the host responds with the send acknowledge, this indicates that the system is up and running. That could be very useful using the TCP in case the ICMP is blocked by firewalls. Now, for the ARP, it's used in the local networks to identify live hosts by mapping IP addresses to MAC addresses. So, and I mean, also you have another protocols like UDP, for example. Like you could check, like if you scan computers to check for open UDP ports. It's less reliable, but that's one way of doing it. Now, like I said, there are so many tools out there. One of them is Nmap, fping, which is very fast ping sweeps, which, it can cover large IP ranges. Like the one on the screen here, Angry IP Scanner. That's a user-friendly tool, by the way, for scanning IP ranges here. And there is Mass Scan, high-speed scanner for large-scale host discovery. So you could see right now, host discovery is a critical first step in penetration testing. By using all these options, the one I just explained here, you'll be able to get an idea which hosts are available. Now, for the second part here, services. Now, once we figure out that there's a TCP or UDP ports are open, now the second part, we need to figure out what type of services they're running in those machines. Okay, so the way it works in enumeration is that we identify active services by determining whether TCP or UDP ports are open on a target system. So basically, when we see an open port, like the one you see, these are open ports here. This means that there is software service is listening for incoming client connections or network traffic, making them valuable entry points for penetration testing. Obviously, when you see close, I don't have it here on my screen. Close port means do not respond to connection attempts. While inaccessible, they still can indicate the presence of a host. Now, in case if you see instead of open or close, you see something called filtered ports. Now, filter means, there's a firewall or security controls blocking responses here. So, kind of making it unclear if a port is open or closed here. Now, here, I mean, one of the interesting information here, we know the port that is open, okay, and it's a little bit cut from here. It should be 21. And here we have the version. Now, the version, this is very interesting, very important information, because once we figure out, the version of the application running, we could search online for vulnerabilities related to each one of these versions. Now, one more thing before we move to the next slide here is something called well-known port numbers, and they're usually between 0 to 1023, like you see on the screen, TCP 21 for FTP, which is supposed to be here. TCP 22, TCP 25 SMTP, port 80 HTTP, 440 HTTPS, and DNS 53. Now, for enumerating users and groups, okay, so this involve identifying valid user accounts, login identifiers, and group memberships within a target system or network. Now, user enumeration technique can be done through the network protocol enumeration tools. There are so many tools out there, obviously. But tools like SMB enumeration, which is server message block, or SNMP queries, and LDAP searches can help you discover valid usernames here. Now, when it comes to Active Directory by window, Users and groups are centrally managed here. And of course, the security group creation, permission assignment, all are central managed here. However, there are so many tools out there that can help you enumerate, Active Directory environment. Like one of them is called Bloodhound, Hound, Bloodhound. This one maps relationships between users, groups, and system to identify privilege escalation path. You got also another one is called Power View, which is part of Power's Ploit, used for Active Directory users, groups, and permission enumeration. Now, the question is, why user enumeration is important? Well, first of all, as a pen tester, okay, you'll be able to identify valid usernames, which is very important if you want to do brute force attacks or password spraying or account takeover. You could do maps permissions also. Well, map permissions means what? Means you have good understanding about the user and the group's roles, which basically helps you in what sense? It helps you in the sense that you'll be able to identify high-level accounts with the privilege access, and that's, of course, your target. Also, it can help you prepares for social engineering. When you enumerate user data, you get an idea about the email addresses or group roles. You could create or craft an appropriate phishing campaign against those users here. Now, for enumeration, email addresses, okay. Now, as I mentioned, email addresses are used in social engineering and phishing, and frequently used as also as account name. Like for example here, that's probably like in some cases, some system, this account is used as a login. So that's a great information for us. Now, there are so many tools out there that can help you figure out what types of email related to a certain domain. Like, for example, here, the harvester. Okay, here you decide about the domain you want and which site you want to look for. Okay, and then start searching and can detect, for example, like an email address was found and which host related to this domain here. So these are considered very important information here. Okay, so let's talk about, enumeration for shares and applications. So I'm going to break it down to two things. Now, first of all, shares enumeration means are what? Shares are basically file directories that are accessible to users on a remote system or through the network. Typically shared over protocols like SMB, like Windows environment, or NFS, network file system in Linux, Unix system. You know, Obviously, what we look for as a pen tester for any misconfigured shares or vulnerable application that can expose sensitive information and providing pathways for exploitation. Like for tools like Nmap and show mount, these tools, like Nmap, it's very helpful to look for, like shares. And show mount, this one is used for NFS share enumeration tools. Now, for application enumeration here, okay, enumerating application running on remote system, it's very important, as I mentioned in the previous slide, because it helps you to identify services that may contain critical or remote vulnerabilities. Now, obviously, by extracting the version details as you see it and on this slide over here, you are able to basically look for vulnerabilities related to the version number over here. Okay, so this is why enumeration of shares and application is very important, because as a pen tester, my goal here is to identify misconfigurations of shares and services can expose sensitive information. For example, like we could use it to detect vulnerabilities. Like I mentioned, when I look at the application versions, which has helped me to see if this version has a matches or something that match vulnerabilities to this version number over here. And obviously, you're gonna start plan for exploits, and see if you could exploit these vulnerabilities. Now, for website reconnaissance, crawling and scraping websites. Okay, so this is, I want to spend some time so you could understand the difference. The crawling here involves systematically exploring a website structure by following all links and folders within the actual website. This process helps pen testers understand how a site is organized and try to uncover hidden or sensitive areas that may not be immediately visible. Okay, so great. So what is the benefit? Well, the benefit is that as a pen tester, you'll be able to map out directories, subpages, and hidden paths. You could possibly identify login pages, maybe admin panels and file repositories. And, of course, this will probably expose content or links that could be useful for further testing or attacks. Now, scraping over here, extracting helpful information from web pages, files, and crawling. Now, crawling and scrapping can identify information for social engineer. Now, so the idea behind this is we try to extract information from web pages or files discovered during crawling. Okay. Now, like what? Well, for example, we could look for email addresses. We could look for phone numbers, employee details for social engineering. We could look for version numbers of software, frameworks, or application. We could look for hidden comments, credentials, or metadata within HTML code. We could look also for sensitive files like backups or configuration. So, of course, obviously, there are so many tools. If you look at the screen over here, we got the wget. This is a command line tool for downloading content and crawling websites. The MSF crawler, that's this is part of Metasploit that maps a site's structure to identify files and directories. The Black Widow, this is very advanced web crawler, and that can capture site content, and also this tool, the W3AF. This is also another well-known web application attack, uh, an audit framework, and of course, Burp, Sweet Spider. That's another well-known. Now, the thing here about crawling and scraping matters, because it can help you identify hidden content. Like I mentioned, directories pages. It can support social engineering. If you capture, you figure out emails and employee information, it can be used for phishing. And of course, it can expose sensitive data like metadata, hidden file, like I mentioned. The other important thing for you that you need to understand is called robots.txt. Now, this file is located in the root of a website and provides directives to search engine on which pages or folders not to crawl, like you see over here. See that thing over here? Now, this file contains certain things. You telling it basically not to scan these folders over here. So now, for for an attacker, this file becomes a roadmap for exploring restricted sensitive areas. So like, if I see this, then then in this case, oh no, I want to look into it. I want to figure out if there's something hidden with it. So so again, so robots.txt, it's one of the important files that you need to look for. Now, for packet interception and crafting, packet sniffing, taking copies of the message passed by a network, Wireshark. Wireshark is one of the very well-known to, I mean, most well-known actually, and widely used packet interception and network analysis tool. You know, it has very nice GUI interface that makes it easy to analyze, you know, captured network traffic in a human readable format. Now, okay, so packet sniffing, I mean, you know, it's about capturing, analyzing network traffic by intercepting those messages. Now, what is the practical use in penetration testing, you know, for packet sniffing? You know, well, first of all, well, it can help you identify sensitive data. You know, like you could inspect if it just happened unencrypted traffic to find credentials or session cookies. Or for example, like protocol analysis, like detect weak or vulnerable protocols like HTTP, FTP, Telnet. You could do, for example, like, you know, man in the middle attack. You know, you could do network mapping. And let's see here, like here, for example, like this packet has been captured and we were able to identify a password, okay, that's not being encrypted here. So it's very nice tool, okay? Now, let's talk about tokens. Tokens also, it's a very important topic here. Tokens are data elements used in network system and application to facilitate authentication and authorization. Now, they allow systems to verify user identity, manage sessions, and enforce access control. Now, in penetration testing, guys, you know, token can be intercepted, sorry, acquired or crafted to bypass security controls, escalate privilege, or gain unauthorized access. Now, there are different types of session here. Like for example, there is a session token, which is can be used to maintain user session, like cookies and HTTP. There is access tokens, which it can grant the user access to specific system, application, or APIs. There's authentication tokens used, you know, which can be used to verify user identity and credential. And there's API tokens allow authorized access to API and services. Now, things about, you know, token concept in the PenTest Plus, scoping tokens. Okay. Now, scoping tokens basically analyze tokens to determine what information they contain. Like, does it contain username, roles, or sensitive, you know, details, and verify their access level. Here we have issuing tokens. Pentester may attempt to create or forge tokens to gain access to restricted system. Obviously, this involves manipulating token signing and mechanism or using weak keys. Revoking tokens, okay, so that's something else. You know, like test whether system can effectively revoke tokens to destroy active session. Now, weak revocation mechanism can allow attackers to retain access even after logout or privilege change. So these are typical token concept that you should become familiar with. But however, there are token-based attacks, you know. Now, quite frankly, the token attacks can be complex and it vary depending on the type of a token and the implementation and what type of system. You know, like if you want to intercept a token, Okay, well, you can if you capture the token during transmit using tools like Burp Suite. Okay, so you could like modify the token, for example. You could analyze the tokens. If if you capture one, you could inspect the token to see if they contain user information or access level details or expiration time. You could have a replay token. Once you capture one of them, you could modify that thing, like modify a valid token to replay requests and impersonate the original users to access systems, for example. Like, and if you honestly, if you want to experience this, open, OWASP, BWA system can help you practice these stuff, like how to launch token based attacks over here. Okay, so uh, you will definitely need the tools like Burp Suite because Burp Suite can intercept, analyze, and manipulate tokens in HTTP requests. And it's a great learning experience that you should learn about it here. Now, now for defense detection here, we have active recon may involve detecting defensive security devices on the network. Now, when we talk about load balancer, for example, it could be software or hardware. Now, if you look at it here, load balancer ensures that all the servers, let's say, for example, web servers, all the work that has been distributed equally to each one of them. None of them, like, I mean, we should not have one of them busy and the other sitting down doing nothing, whatsoever. Okay, so now we have also the web application firewall protects web application and servers, like you see the screen over here. A lot of sites they use web application firewall. And there are some tool on Kali Linux, you could use it to determine if like this particular website using web application firewall. Now, what is the role of web application? It can protect your website from cross-site scripting, SQL injection, cookie poisoning, and request forgery. And this is one of the important. This is like an example of Barracuda web application firewall 460, and you can see the amount of features that it has. Now, we have also antivirus software, we're all familiar with. We have also the firewall. Now, with this, by the end of this here, this model, you can view, you should be able to understand what is passive reconnaissance techniques, active reconnaissance techniques, what type of tools are used in this. And finally, I want to thank you so much for watching this video lecture. I hope you find it useful. If yes, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Again, thank you so much for watching.